Good morning, gentlemen. I'm going to give you a small talk today on Benito Mussolini and Adolf Hitler. Now, these two characters were the main participants during the period of the Second World War, and both were allies, thick together. It's important to study the characteristics or the character of both these men and what really transpired between them. Benito Mussolini, as we all know, came to power with that famous march of the black shirts on Rome, I think in 1922. And when he reached Rome, the King of Italy called him over and handed him the government, and he became ill-used, the leader. He believed in fascism, and that is one of the facts of his policy. And he wanted to restore the ancient glory of the Roman Empire. As you're aware, Rome almost ruled the entire fringe area around the Mediterranean Sea. It was a very big empire, lasted hundreds of years. But Benito Mussolini had misread the character of the Italian people. They were not really aggressive or warlike, like say the Romans were, and they had become a little soft in their entire outlook to life. But at that time, when he came to power in 1982, there was a lot of fervor in support of Benito Mussolini. And he went about his task in a very meticulous manner, but he was overshooting his bolt all the time. At the other end, Adolf Hitler was looking to Mussolini for leadership. He thought at that time Hitler was in the periphery and Mussolini was in power in 1922 onwards, and Hitler came to power only in 1933. So Adolf Hitler looked up to Mussolini for guidance at that time. But this pendulum was to change. That is the point which I am trying to make out now. And Benito Mussolini again committed a fatal mistake. He couldn't understand the genius of the Italian people, which was more into romanticism than in military drills and occupation of various countries. And he now began to cultivate an image to the world that he was a very powerful man, a very big man, He began to give interviews, he began to talk to people, and his exploits with the women were being expanded, told to so many people all over the world. And people thought that here's a man who's a man of metal, a great person who's going to make it really great. Adolf Hitler initially, as I told you, used to look up to Mussolini as an example. Hitler also was a fascist, but Mussolini believed in pure fascism, while Hitler had his own national socialism, which he propagated in Germany. It was a form of capitalism, that is state capitalism. But Hitler actually was the more dynamic man, the more forthright, the more determined, and he was leading a race which was warlike. I would say a martial race. The Germans have been martial throughout history, and they have always opposed the British. That point has to be noted. So in 1922 to 1933, Mussolini consolidated his role, his power in Italy, while Hitler won the election in 1933. Now, won the election is not the correct term, because he had his party emerged as the largest single party in the Reichstag. And then he decided that enough is enough, I'm not going to have any more elections, I'm going to be in power all the time. So he burnt the Reichstag, blamed it on the communists, and started a reign of repression in Germany. At the same time, he panded to German sentiments, and very soon he became an extremely popular man in Germany. The Germans had been badly humiliated, in the First World War, particularly by the Treaty of Versailles, which had imposed tremendous unpayable penalties on Germany. They're not supposed to have an army of a particular strength, aircraft. There are so many restrictions, but there. Hitler wanted to restore German glory. And also Germany had lost all the colonies which they had after the First World War. Hitler actually, I don't think he was really interested in the colonies. He was interested in total domination over Europe and creating what he called Lebensraum, that is the living space for the German people, and that he felt would be available in Russia. And secondly, Nazi socialism was the sworn enemy of communism. And since Karl Marx was a Jew, he just added two and two and became an opponent of the Jewish faith, the Jewish people. And he felt they are the ones who betrayed Germany in the First World War, and that is why Germany lost the war. Hitler came to power, and soon he and Mussolini had a meeting, and both of them decided that, well, we have birds of the same flock. But Mussolini was slowly losing his hold, his ebb over the Italian people. Most of the Italians felt they had been dragged into unnecessary war. And the biggest drawback which came, the first step in his downfall was his invasion of the Balkan islands, Greece in particular. At a time, when Hitler was all powerful and just occupied France, he occupied Norway, and the British didn't know anything, and at that time he was omnipotent. He had signed a non-aggression pact with Russia, so he had made the Eastern Front safe. Mussolini felt left out, left out in the sense he said, look, I'm the bigger dictator, I'm the one who's been earlier, and I've not been getting my due. That is the reason he started the Balkan invasion of Greece. But as it records, the Italians didn't have much of a success, and the supply lines were poor, the equipment was poor, the motivation of the troops was poor, and the Italians suffered reversals in the campaign in Greece. When Hitler came to know about it, he immediately ordered the invasion of Greece, because Yugoslavia had already been occupied by the Germans. And he, of course, started with that famous Battle of Crete, by the Paradraw, which was a Pyrrhic victory for him actually, because the Germans lost trained paratroopers and soldiers, and they never went in for another airborne invasion and gained. Now, once the Germans came in, they won the battle in Greece, Mussolini was reduced. He somehow realized that he is not a match to Hitler. And wherever he was meeting Hitler after that, he was always subservient to Hitler. Hitler, I believe, had a hypnotic effect on many people. One of the hypnotic effects was that he charmed his opponents so much, or frightened them so much, that they couldn't really think what is to be done next. So his campaign in the Balkans in aid of Italy was actually the matchstick, that lighted the flame and the downfall of Mussolini. Now the defeats in the Greece and the Balkans affected the Italians badly, and Germans at home began to wonder, what the hell are we fighting for? What for? In the meanwhile, the Italian army, even in North Africa at that time, was being routed by the troops of the British Indian Army under General Bevell. And so, there also Adolf Hitler intervened with the Afrika Corps, and of course Rommel won a lot of victories for them and reached even up to Alexandria. And he was the overall commander, while the Italians were the subsidiary commanders, the subsidiary troops. But 43 was about all, after Alamein, the Battle of Alamein, which the Axis powers lost, basically because of the poor performance by the Italian army. The question arose now, what next Mussolini was going to do? Mussolini now had become corpulent. He was just interested in survival. I think at that stage, if he had withdrawn from the Pact of Steel with Germany, he would have survived a little longer, but he committed a fatal mistake again, and he continued to put his lot with Hitler. And I remember, reading in history, Winston Churchill saying that Italy was the soft underbelly of the Axis powers. And that's a fact. So the Allies invaded Sicily and was going up to the mainland, that is Italy, and that is the time when the king decided that enough is enough. Mussolini was arrested and he was imprisoned. Mussolini by now had become a shadow of a man of what he was. I mean, he was in awe of Hitler all the time. And his survival now depended on Hitler. And Hitler considered him to be a great friend. And Hitler then organized the rescue of Mussolini from his mountain villa where he was being kept. And as you all know, he put him German Major Otto Skorzeny in charge to try and get him out, and he was taken out from there. It was a great feat of rescue. But all that has got little relevance now, because by that time Mussolini had become a shadow of himself and he was running away, hiding from the various people. There was a time when the people adulated Mussolini. They thought he was a great man, he's a good man, but now he became the most hated man in Italy. And though Hitler propped up his regime in northern Italy, his days were numbered. I think at that stage Mussolini must have realized that he had shot his bolt. He hadn't played his cards properly. And Mussolini was hiding from his own people at that time. The partisans were fighting against him, led by the communists. And Adolf Hitler himself was hemmed in by the Russian counteroffensive in Europe. So the question was, what next for Mussolini? Perhaps he knew at that stage that his survival hinged only on Adolf Hitler, and he also knew that perhaps my days are numbered and I'm going to die. Gentlemen, as you all know, Mussolini was caught by the partisans when he was escaping from his villa, and then he was shot down, dead and hung upside down in Milan's mistress. And that was the end of Mussolini, and I think Hitler lived to see his best friend being treated in this manner, and that probably prompted him to take his life. So two men who dominated the world at that time were Mussolini and Hitler. Mussolini started very well, he was a great leader at that stage, but he frittered away everything because he couldn't understand the genius of the Italian people, and he was fighting a ceaseless war which he could not win. He became subservient to Hitler because of a hypnotic spell on him. But the net result was that this man led Italy to do. I don't think anybody remembers Mussolini now in Italy. They think he's a bad chapter, though it hit, and same thing about Adolf Hitler. But it's very important to understand that how these two leaders dominated Europe for some time, at least for about a decade. And now something similar is happening, and there are leaders from the Western powers who are again trying to dominate Europe. See, basic problem what happened in the First World War was the attempt to dominate Europe. Germany and Italy, that is Hitler and Mussolini, were interested in dominating Europe, and they considered Russia an enemy. Though I can understand, and you might have read, that Adolf Hitler was ready for an accommodation with the British, but at his terms. If you see, the same scenario is being repeated now. The Western powers are again trying to dominate Europe. They are doing it through a proxy war in Ukraine, and the Russians are fighting back. So we don't know what's going to happen. I think I'll discuss that in a later video. At the moment, it's just a short talk on Mussolini and Hitler, two characters who frittered away all the goodwill which the people had given them. Mussolini had the better start, but he frittered away and ended up being shot, hanged. That's part of history. I close now, gentlemen, and say, Jai Hind, glory to India. Come back for more. Do subscribe to my channel, share it with your friends. Share it with your friends. And goodbye. God bless. Thank you.